Ready or Not is a first-person tactical shooter which is making its console debut, having initially launched on Steam in 2023 after a period of early access. For those unfamiliar, Ready or Not harkens back to the days of games like SWAT, which were popular in the 90s into the 2000s, and is therefore a much slower paced shooter where you play more as a commander of a squad as opposed to the point man. The aim is to clear your objectives, engage in combat as a last resort, rescue civilians and find and complete objectives, which tends to be finding evidence scattered around the map. You are of course free to tackle these missions however you see fit, so are afforded a level of player freedom. You could roleplay and issue commands to your squad, of which there are many, or be the action hero and get stuck in as much as you like. Even if you are playing more as the commander, you'll still be involved in combat, so it's definitely not a hands-off experience. The game offers 18 single-player missions through the Commander mode. There's no cinematic storyline, but there are wider narrative beats throughout those missions which interlink and tell something of a story. All I would say is that the more attention you pay to the mission briefings and the suspects, the more you'll take from the whole thing. There's a quick play mode, which is essentially that, jumping in to unlock missions without the squad management element, or the multiplayer mode, which is basically the same as the single player, with you and up to 4 friends taking down bad guys. I mentioned mission briefings earlier on, and this is where the game is presented in a really cool fashion. Your briefings are delivered via a tablet with a dossier of information on potential suspects, civilians, entry points on the map, and you can even listen to the 911 calls. From here you can also choose your squad and make sure that they're up to the task. In Commander mode, squad members unlock traits. Those traits can be handy in certain combat situations. Speaking of your squad, you and 4 others form the team. However, a bit like the campaign, there's nothing cinematic about them. They're literal red shirts. They might make the occasional quip here and there, but have zero personality. If you're after a game which is a 15-hour cinematic campaign with fully fleshed out characters, then this game is not going to scratch that itch. Missions themselves do offer a really good variety of situations to resolve, though most do involve shooting holes in somebody at some point. You do get more XP for resolving them by arresting and defusing situations, ensuring that your squad survive. However, whilst the squad are a bunch of bots, there is a stress mechanic, and if shit hits the fan, they could end up needing to head to therapy, depending on how much emotional damage they endure.
Emotional damage!
To assist you in your valiant efforts against the gangs of Los Suenos, is a fine, varied array of guns. Lots of guns. And all come with loads of attachments as well, leading to plenty of loadout customization options. They all behave differently as you'd expect from any shooter, and there's a real weight and punchiness about them. One area I did however struggle with to begin with was the clunky radio menu when trying to navigate the squad command wheel. It just didn't feel responsive or intuitive at all. But once I got to grips with it, then I feel like it did get a little bit better. I'm also just putting that down to me being a little bit more of a keyboard and mouse snob these days, and a bit out of practice on controller. However, in the options menu, apparently you can run keyboard and mouse if your street cred can handle the ridicule. In terms of performance, I did encounter a few bugs in my initial few hours with the game. Enemies glitching through walls, including one situation which meant I failed a mission and had to restart the entire thing, which is a ball ache after 30 minutes of taking out most of the enemies and collecting all the evidence that I needed. However, I never encountered anything that was completely game breaking. Graphically, I felt the game looked pretty good. Maps are well detailed and varied, as are the weapons and the character models. When you engage in gunfire, the environment reacts accordingly to my terrible aim. I feel the game performed well. I played with the 60 FPS performance mode, and whilst I did encounter some frame rate drops, they were predominantly in the outside areas or larger parts of the map. It was mostly pretty solid. Those aforementioned issues I'm sure can be resolved with a few patches. As with games nowadays, you're given 2 different graphics modes, a performance mode of 60 FPS or a weirdo mode of 30 FPS. Who would play a first person shooter in 30 FPS optionally? Audio really shines for me in this game. When gunplay kicks off, the sound is superb. I mentioned earlier that I felt the voice acting was solid, and also in missions it's handy to listen out for people because both civilians and suspects do blow their cover by talking away to themselves.
Let me see those hands! Put your hands up! Hands up now! Drop to your knees! Turn around. Classified support on me.
Entry team is up. Got a suspect down here. They're down. Back down!
Overall, I've enjoyed my time with Ready or Not. I feel like this is a game that scratches a particular kind of itch, and that if you're after something a bit more realistic and gritty in terms of a shooter, then this definitely serves that purpose. It's well presented, visceral, challenging, and a shooting that's punchy in both how it looks and sounds. It won't be for everyone, however, as there's a bit of a lack of replayability. Sure, there is a multiplayer mode, but that for the time being is limited to PvE. And whilst you could repeat those missions in varying difficulties, I reckon it won't be long until the novelty wears off. There is seemingly a PvP mode coming later down the line, but if you have absolutely no interest in multiplayer at all, then you are literally limited to the Commander mode or quick play. Like I say though, I did enjoy the game enough to score it a 7 out of 10. Will you be picking up Ready or Not on PlayStation or Xbox? If so, you don't have long to wait. It's out July 15th. Let us know what you think of the game in the comments, and as always, please consider liking and subscribing. Thanks again for watching.